Okay. Mike Mora for Waipuna, Halswell-Hornby, Riccarton Community Board.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to present our submission on the annual plan. Our board does not have any direct changes, savings or swaps to offer up in relation to the projects contained in the proposed plan, but we do we are very appreciative that the plan is proposing to retain key projects of importance in local communities across Halswell-Hornby and Riccarton wards. As such, the board does request that the council keep the full capital program as consulted on when adopting the 2019-20 plan. Bradshaw Terrace is the sole exception of the above, though it's the board's understanding that the curb and channel renewal is no longer in the remaining second and third years of the current capital program. The board records its extreme disappointment about this, given that the council publicly advised the renewal package included Bradshaw Terrace, which would be undertaken in years 2019, 2020 and 2020-21. So the board reiterates the viewpoint that those assurances were made but now have seemingly changed through the removal of Bradshaw Terrace from the renewal program for at least the next 4 to 6 years. That's something that we have submitted on regularly, and it's very, very disappointing that it's been shunted out. I think you'll be hearing more about that during the course of the submissions process. We also say that Bradshaw Terrace should be assessed as a special case for reinstatement back into the program for completion in the financial years previously communicated by the council in June 2018. The board understands that in last year's long-term plan, Bradshaw Terrace program will be programmed for capital acceleration fund for roading improvements in the Riccarton area, and the board seeks an assurance that this will be the case. Major cycleways, that program is rolling out, and we haven't got any major comments or concerns about that at this point in time. Flood protection is one of the biggest things in our when we have a look at the budgets for our different sub-wards in our community board. Flood protection work is really well up there. There's huge money being spent in that area, and rightly so, because the three we are the headwaters of the three major rivers in Christchurch, other than the Waimakariri in our ward. So to help with that and the development of urban and residential developments around those areas, it's very, very important that we get it right with climate change coming. So we acknowledge that, and on a related matter, the board notes that mention be made in the draft plan on page 6 regarding the proposed land drainage retention basin maintenance allocation, which is $450,000 towards the cost of mowing and the maintenance of stormwater reserves in our residential areas. Well, what we're concerned about is with the growth of the development of these stormwater detention systems, that there's 84 sites mentioned, and we really want a list of those 84 sites so we can see what's in our area. But there will be, with more and more stormwater retention detention systems coming on stream, we're really concerned that the upkeep and maintenance budget will be insufficient to actually keep and maintain those stormwater retention detention systems, so they look like an attractive green space when they're not used necessarily for stormwater retention and detention. So we're really concerned about that we need to be looking into the future with all of these detention systems coming on, that we can actually maintain them and make them, because there's residential properties right around there and we just have concerns about that. Given the extent of the proposed flood protection works in the southwest, the board does ask the question whether the maintenance, so I've just ad-libbed that, but you've got it in front of you to read. Rates. We're happy with what you're doing with rates, generally. Residential rates, the board supports the council approach of increasing the uniform annual general charge and waste minimisation rate, and they should be adjusted annually in line with inflation. The board notes the documentation charts showing the 2019, 2020, 2018, 2019 that are helpful for the reader in the document. In its submissions, the media have tended in the past to focus on rates' impact on the median house. However, it is important to acknowledge the impacts on the above median house. So we have given those figures from our board in previous years, so we didn't actually include that here today, but it is a concern. Targeted rates. We fully support Akaroa community's desire for a new health facility centre in Akaroa, while noting that a separate consultation is to occur on the possible introduction of a new Akaroa Community Health Trust targeted rate. The board is disappointed that this approach has had to be taken in the view that provision for core health facilities is the responsibility of central government. So that's how we feel about that. Remote rural rates policy. We wish to again reinforce the application of remote rural rates remains inequitable. The present policy requires a subjective interpretation by council staff when a property by property review is required. The board accepts the pragmatic approach that this will remain as work in progress, with a comprehensive review being undertaken and as part of the long-term plan 2021. It is a real issue, the disparities and the unfairness of the rural rates. It all depends on where a house is sitting on a rural block. It also instances can be shown where properties are actively farmed by comparison to others in neighbouring areas. So there's a difference there. There's a difference right around the city, actually. What we need to do is to actually, and our board request a review of the pending policy in time for the 2021-2022 LTP, and notes that this has been an ongoing inequity for many years, and we've raised this many times as well. So what we're pleading for is some really good work to be done on addressing this inequity, and it needs to be done citywide all at the same time, because what's happening is focusing on different areas of the city. So while there's changes being made and people have been rated unfairly or fairly, and those changes are made maybe in the southwest of Christchurch, until you go right around the city, some areas are gaining, and other areas are losing out. So, sorry, I'm a bit muddled today, but anyway, that's one of the issues that we're really pleading for some clarity on. The next thing is the Halswell swimming pool operating hours. Our community board is prepared to put in money for the next season to actually have the pool opening earlier and closing later, extending the season. And what we're pleading for is, if that's successful, then can we have the budget to keep that up? Our board, I don't think it's right that our board keep on topping up the operation of the extending hours of a swimming pool. If the need is there and Halswell community is growing like crazy, that opportunity is not rolled out in the budget for the city. So we're fronting up as a community board with the money to actually extend it for the next year, but we're saying that if it's used, and I'm sure it will be with the growth in Halswell, that it carry on. So moving on then to the next one is the former Sockburn Service Centre site. Oh, for goodness sake, can't we just get it knocked down? Honestly, it's a constant reminder of the earthquakes. But that building wasn't actually damaged in the earthquake, because post-earthquake, it was a lot of the council's operations went in there in September when this building was closed down. So it was really needed then, and then all of a sudden another earthquake comes along and the building's been evacuated and just left to be a reminder of what happened in Otatahi, Christchurch. Every time anybody goes past there, it reminds you of the earthquake. I know other parts of the city, especially in the east, have got constant reminders all the time, but in this part of Christchurch, especially the Hornby area, that was probably the least affected by the earthquakes, we've still got this monumental structure there, tagged with graffiti, with a fence all around it, reminding us constantly of that. So can we please get that up the priority list and get it demolished? Thank you. The next, of course, is the Aldhurst, the Sockburn Service Centre. Yeah. So, sorry? Aldhurst Hall. Yes, the Aldhurst Hall was in our neighbouring board. It mentions the board in their submission, but it was the board's because it's right on the boundary, and there's some very good information and background on that hall if you have a look at it. The need is growing more and more from the community for that to be fixed up. Okay, so that's a work in progress, but what we're really concerned about is actually getting it weatherproof until some more work can be done on it. That is an important thing. So what we need to do is actually work with the community and get it fixed, get the roof fixed, get some essential work done on it so that more work can be done on it. There is, when you have a look at presentations that will be coming to this panel or to this council on that, please take it seriously. Coming back from the coast on the weekend, the little settlement of Sheffield, their hall is being reconstructed as we speak. So a lot of these little rural places, like Yalthurst was a little rural place back in the day, their war memorial halls are an absolute gem, and there's just, well, you know how I feel about it. And our board is supporting the halt of the demolition and to try and get this back on track. So that's about it from us, isn't it, Matt? Questions? Oh, sorry, Leanne, that's your job.
It is my job, but thank you, all the same. Just on the Halswell swimming pool, you've obviously going to put some money into trial the hours.
Yes.
And you're going to do a review of that to see how successful it is. So it is at that point that you'll come back in next year's annual plan. Yes. With a request. So you're just alerting us to the fact that you're going to have a request, and if it proves to be successful. Yep. I think the numbers didn't stack up the first time, but there were reasons why it may be more significant increase this time.
Well, I think publicity in the early stages that it will be open, that these hours will be in place, and so that the community know that they can go there and have a swim should they choose to before they go to work. Yeah. And they can stay and enjoy it with their families later in the day as well. Yep.
And I'm glad that you mentioned the Yalthurst tour. I thought that I was going to invite you to do so if you hadn't. In terms of the uniform annual general charge, you've obviously, your community board's taken that just a little step further. You'd like to see that adjusted by inflation so that it doesn't fall out of kilter with the proportion of the average rates charged that is applied.
That was what our submissions committee agreed to. Yeah.
I'm trying to get the analysis done of what it represented as a proportion of the annual of the average annual rates at each stage when it's been increased. I haven't quite got that yet.
Oh, okay.
As soon as I've got that, it'll give us a general picture of why you want to perhaps take on board your submission on this particular matter. Well, I've got David, Andrew and Yanni.
Thank you, Mike. Just a couple of points of clarification, or one point of clarification. I assume that when you're referring to the rural rates issue, it's to lifestyle blocks?
We've got farms, we've got lifestyle blocks, we've got all sorts in our ward, and so have other wards. But anyway, that's the lifestyle block farm as opposed to the Murphy's big dairy farm operation, which is no longer in place in our ward. But we have had a history of complete farming operations within our ward. But you're right, David. It's more the lifestyle blocks.
Thanks. And the second point really pertains to Bradshaw Terrace, and I suppose every ward in the city could point to a street or streets that are falling off the radar, for want of a better word. And I think of Marine Parade in my ward that was on the plans for redevelopment before the earthquakes and has disappeared altogether ever since. So would you, sorry, I'll just backtrack a little bit. I'm actually concerned that across the city we don't have a proper prioritisation of streets that really need the work. So would you support an urgent review of streets in need in the city, and perhaps for every community board or to actually provide their list of the streets that they feel need the greatest attention? Because I'm just concerned that we talk endlessly about a prioritisation of roading repairs around the city, but we're stuck in a program of renewals and repairs.
No, they are prioritised, David.
Yeah, but I don't think they're prioritised significantly.
They're not prioritised equitably across the city because some are more damaged in the
Well,
east,
we're
for
not
example.
recognising the ones that are significantly damaged either, because
It is a multi-criteria analysis, but anyway, we can get a briefing on that. I think that what Mike is saying is that Bradshaw Terrace needs to be reinstated in a program because it was in a program before.
Absolutely.
It no longer meets the criteria for urgent assessment as against other streets.
Yeah.
So he's actually asking for something quite different from what you're proposing, which is a priority process. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
But
I
the
mean,
stormwater's been fixed in the meantime, is that right?
It's supposed to be done from the work from the 200 million.
Yeah, but isn't the
300.
sorry, hasn't the stormwater been addressed?
The stormwater has been addressed, but
But it's the curb and channel that
it's the
is
curb and
required
channel,
to be
the
done.
street. If I was to have gone into Bradshaw Terrace on my way home from here yesterday, the street would have been flooded.
Yes, there was a lot of surface flooding yesterday.
Yeah, I know. But even if it had been
Coppery
half
Road
as bad
was
as it was
flooded.
yesterday, it still would have been, so.
yeah, but my point, I think, was that, you know, every ward...
I know what your point was.
Every ward can bring up a street, and there's same situation
But
prevails, but we're not
if
addressing it.
visibility to priorities, yeah.
Well, maybe it's a question of visibility to priorities.
Yeah, they've fixed the street. What they haven't, they've fixed the stormwater. They have not repaired the curb and channel, which is not a priority as against some of the other needs in the city. But we're taking on board the fact that you've made a submission again on it, and I totally understand why. It's
I apologise for not having some photos to show you.
No, it is crystal clear why you're bringing it back. Andrew.
Thank you. Thanks for the submission, Mike. I just wanted to drill down a little bit further into your board's commentary on the uniform annual general charge and median property values. Your comment at the bottom of page 2 suggests that over time you could well support a greater reliance on uniform charges and a lower reliance on a value-based rating approach. And obviously that would affect, by way of a percentage increase, lower valued properties more greatly than it would higher valued properties. So I'd appreciate some commentary on that. But a specific question around that: would you take the same view if your board area contained a larger proportion of lower valued properties, or is your view really driven by property values in the part of the city that you represent?
When you say me, I'm presenting our board submission. I may have a different view personally on what our board actually is submitting here today. So I think, Andrew, to be fair, we've got to go with what's here.
That's absolutely right, and that is my position as the mayor as well. I don't get to express a personal opinion, and you don't get to express your personal opinion, and it's probably, you've been crystal clear in your submission, and I think that's fine. Yanni.
On December 4th, 2018, your board came to a community workshop with council and said you wanted clarification that Bradshaw Terrace was still on budget.
Yep.
Did you get that clarification?
At that point, no, I can't remember. I'm pretty sure we did.
Right.
And then it...
And sorry, you were told it was on budget?
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
So I'm just trying to understand, because I refer to 67 and 68 of our annual plan with the proposed list of capital changes.
Yes.
There's no reference to Bradshaw Terrace renewal, curb and channel renewal being removed. I'm just trying to understand how your board is of the opinion and your submission that it has been removed.
If you go through the, Matt, can you just help us here?
We've had confirmation from staff. We asked the question, why wasn't that? Why wasn't the line item? Staff came out and confirmed.
We've had, well, you say, we've had confirmation from staff.
The board asked the question of staff, having seen that it wasn't there and wasn't named, and staff have come back and confirmed that it's not there due to the prioritisation.
How can we have a document that goes out that says what the changes are that doesn't make reference to changes that are being made?
We'll get some advice on
But
that.
this has been raised
We'll get some
repeatedly
advice
for
on that,
several
Yanni. I
months.
don't have that information immediately in front of me.
It just makes a joke of this
I
whole
don't
process.
have the information immediately in front of me. We will get some advice on it before we consider the submission. So thank you very much, Mike. Much appreciated.
The second question I had was, you've mentioned about the old Sockburn service centre site,
Yes.
which I understand. The old Sockburn pool, where I know CSRs are being logged and was also being said there's no money to clean it up. Is that still something that your board's keen to see just tidied up and made safe?
Absolutely.
Right. And
That's the children's, it's a sort of paddling pool area, the remnants of the old Sockburn pool
Yeah.
site, that's fenced off. We just want to get that cleaned up as well,
yeah.
so that can be a fully usable
And is it
green
your
space.
board's understanding that that's not being done because of lack of funding as well?
I think it's programmed, isn't it? So that, yes, there's work underway to actually do that. But when that work starts, I don't know. That's a question that we'll have to ask our park staff.
Thank you.
All right. Look, thank you very much, Mike. I appreciate the hard work that you've all put into the submission process. It's much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't envy your jobs, but anyway, thanks for hearing us and taking on board the things that we feel quite passionate about. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Look, would it be all right if